Well, since it's been a theme of our previous recordings of Kingdom Hearts, tell me about the newest episode of Attack on Titan.
Not much happened in that one, so I was just like ignoring it because it was like nothing really. I mean, it ended on a big cliffhanger because Aaron finally ran back into what the fuck is his name? Armor Titan guy. Whose name is eluding me for some reason. But
it's not important anyway.
They finally got the thing together where Rhina, there we go. Rhina is now meets Aaron for the first time. Oh, we also found out who Aaron's grandfather is.
But not his dad.
No, we've known who his dad is for a while now. That shit was all covered in Season 3. His dad was a revolutionary, trying to overthrow the government and his oppressors. Yeah, Viva Resistance style, and he failed. And then was gonna be executed, but then ended up being saved by some other Viva revolutionary guy.
Resistance.
And that guy ended up, and then he escaped to the island, and that's why there's the island.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's not why there's the island. The island was already established by the former king of the land or whatever, but yeah.
Goofy. Donald. Cutie.
But Aaron gets to meet his grandfather for literally 2 minutes in the episode, and I was like, that seemed pointful.
Yeah, because he's gonna have a flashback about it in 3 episodes from now, Chris.
You get to see that his grandfather was not taking too well to his son being
Viva Resistance.
Being essentially murdered.
Yeah, I mean, why don't we murder everybody, Chris?
So he's doing well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, other than that, nothing really happened that episode.
I see.
They had a festival. We learned about the people who are the new Titan royalty, because all the Titan people are
human
segregated.
People,
they're all segregated against and hated for being bloodline related to the Titan people. But one of them is cool because that one used his Titan power to overthrow the other Titan guy. So he's cool. He gets to be rich with all the other people. But all the other people of his race can go fucking die.
Anime plot. Gotta love it.
I mean, it makes sense.
If you don't think about it.
No, it makes sense in real life too, because they did that shit back in
everywhere.
A few places over time where they were just betray your race, get to be one of the people with power.
Yeah, betray your people.
It's, I mean, I don't know, man. I've never seen anyone ever betray their people for money or power before. It's never happened in all human history.
Never.
It never happened in all of human history.
Looks at calendar. Oh, every day.
Never happens. But yeah, I mean, you get to learn that there's the mainland is huge. There's a whole bunch of people. It's like the actual world, but not, because none of the fucking people are the same, even though there's similar races, but they're not all the same races, so it's totally different.
They're elves, but not elves. Bullshit.
Yeah. We ran into another Asian person. Remember when she was the only Asian left in the first season, and now they've established that that's not true?
There's an entire country of them.
I remember why no one remembers Iron.
I could count higher than 5.
But she was the only one they showed that episode. I was like, shit, is she well sought after?
It's an entire fucking scene, isn't it?
It's a stupid. Yeah, it's all from season 1, fucking. Because they're just because they essentially established that Mikasa's mother is murdered because she was the only Asian left. But then they accidentally killed her while she was trying to attack them, so they just decided to take her because Mikasa, because Mikasa is technically the only Asian left now, even though she's not, because she's half Asian. But whatever.
It makes sense if you don't think about it.
The way I put it is was she's not the only. She's not the only Asian left. She's only half Asian, which makes her by default not Asian. She's a mixed breed at that point. If I put a Pomeranian and a Husky together, it's not the only Husky left. It's now a Poma Husky. It's now a Huskaranian, or whatever the fuck they call them.
It's a fucking there's a scene in one of the shows, and the guy's that would be like trying to put a Chihuahua with like a Great Dane, I think he says.
Yeah.
And one of the other characters goes, and the problem with that is, and he's like, oh, you're pulling my leg. And she's like, no, I have no idea. I'm not from Earth. I don't know what the fuck these dog breeds are. And he's like, oh, it's a problem about size. And he does like the hand gesture of like the penis. It's like, this is stupid, but I love it.
Alrighty then. Yeah.
But yeah, half Asian, man.
What was I saying? Oh yeah. I know. See, I've always wondered about that because, for some reason, we as a society have broken down like, if two different races of people breed with each other, then that child is both those races. And I'm like, but wouldn't they be technically neither? Wouldn't it be a new race of beings if they were both like dogs? Like that's how we treat dogs. We don't breed a husky and a Pomeranian and be like, oh, it's half husky, half Pomeranian. We're like, oh, it's this new breed of dog called blank.
So
I'm like, why do we have that with the humans where we're just like, well, you're half this and half this, you're this now, you're both these things, and it's like, wouldn't they be a new thing?
Yeah. So they do that in they talk about that type of shit in certain settings in fantasy, where elves and humans mixed together would make a half-elf, right?
Yeah, sure.
And some people are like, oh, they're their own thing, and some people are like, they are their own thing, everybody hates them for it.
I mean, it just makes sense that they would be, like, their own thing,
yeah,
right?
because they're not...
Because they're technically a mix of
half
two
of both,
things.
and it's just like, yeah.
That just makes sense to me, but maybe that's because I'm an uncaring asshole, so I don't know.
I'm with you on there. It's just like, yeah, they're their own thing. They're not elves or humans, they're both.
I went and looked it up because I was kind of curious, and it has some, like... There's, like, some historical likeness behind it. Like, there is names for, like, mixed breeds of, like, two different countries of people.
Yeah.
But I'm unclear how racist it is. Because the information on it was kind of vague, as, like, it could be interpreted as racist, but also could not be, depending on areas and people, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, no, I completely get what you mean there. So, yeah.
So I'm very, like, I have no idea. Because to me it would make sense. It was like, I think they called them like Euro-Asian or something, which is like if a European and Asian person had a kid, their kid would be Euro-Asian.
Yeah.
And to me, I'm like, that makes sense, but then I was unable to clarify if that is like a racist terminology for them. I'm like, this information seems incredibly unhelpful.
Welcome to genetics. Not even genetics.
See, that's...
History is racist, and
Yeah.
people don't seem to want to accept that.
See, I think that makes that shit makes sense up until the point where you've then mixed with too many breeds, and at that point it's just like, then they're just mixed. Kind of like dogs, where you're just like, they're just mutts after a while.
Yeah.
Because it's just so many breeds together.
And to be honest with you, a mutt is actually way more healthy than one of these purebred dogs.
Well, yeah, that's because a mutt is born of actual fucking, like, genetics and not fucking like, I want this thing to be cuter, so I'm gonna make it via forced genetic fucking transfer.
I'm going to play God!
But yeah, like, because mutts survive based off of the fact that, like, this dog is alive and that dog is alive, and now they're giving birth to this dog, which will most definitely get the best traits of both via genetic breeding.
God!
Where, like, genetic breeding for, like, purebreds is, like, pugs, which is just, like, we want them to have crushed-in faces.
I'm so sad about pugs.
Breed them until they eventually can't breathe.
Pugs make me sad. Because they're cute, but really fucking... they're gonna die.
I don't find them cute either. To me, they always just look like this deformed, like, face-bashed-in dog to me.
Yeah.
It's like... They did a not like a study, but a kind of like a
research type thing.
Like not even really a research. It was more of like just like a what do you think about this? Which was like they gave a whole bunch of like genetic like call it like forensic scientists for like for at a college for like murder scenes and shit.
Yeah.
They like showed them the skull of a pug, and didn't tell them what it is, and they asked them like what they think happened to it, and all of them were just like face bashed in or whatever, or, like murdered with sledgehammer to the face, and like
no, it's
they were
just a
like,
pug's
no,
head.
this is just the face of this is just a pug skull.
That's a
And
lot.
it's like,
Fucking pug, man.
so when genetic breeding goes too far.
Never too far.
It's not cute enough. I want to make sure it looks like it's going to die.
Eye pops out. Oh god. Which happens to pugs.
But, this is what happens when you try and play God!
Dude, I was watching a video about it yesterday. And, I guess Vikings, with the afterlife bullshit, you would be met at the gates of Valhalla with a cute, Valkyrie.
Mr. Triangle. Yeah.
I don't want to deal with that bullshit. With a cute Valkyrie, but also your childhood dog. And I'm like, that's pretty cool.
I'm incredibly specific.
Yeah. I was like, that's very specific.
Is the Valkyrie also yours, or is it just a dog?
Oh, it's your personal Valkyrie.
Sick. That sounds way cooler than what we get in Christian religion. I want to go back to Norse mythology.
I was like, that's fucking cool as fuck. Also, they had pet polar bears.
I believe that.
You had a pet bear.
I mean, that's no different than Russia, so like,
Yeah.
let's be honest.
That's why I was just like, I'm not too shocked about that.
Yeah, like that's just Russia.
But a pet polar bear if you were a royal. I was like, that's pretty cool.
That was pretty dope. I mean, if you were Roman, you could get literally any animal in the world. So, you know, there's that.
There's that. Do. Also, how do I phrase this? Romans had an interesting way of thinking about race, where they didn't really think about it as the color of your skin or all that. They were like, oh, they speak a different language than us. They're not us. Which I'm like, that makes way more sense.
I mean, really, it's the same thing we currently do. It's just... Honestly, actually, it's really no different than what we currently do.
But I'm like, huh. And that was their entire thing. It's just like... But they also had an interesting, like... How do I phrase this? They were like, people from German are... They thought they were dumb-witted because the moisture up there made them stupider. And people in Africa were smarter, but shadier because of the heat. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't take all advice from Vikings.
No, that was Romans. I'm like,
Romans.
Romans are dumb.
Maybe we shouldn't take all advice from Romans.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, whatever, Romans. You guys were racist.
I don't think that's not racism, Derek. That's good old-fashioned, just general our country versus your country.
Our country good, your country bad.
Yeah, that's how that's always gonna work.
Everybody's a barbarian but us Romans, because we speak Latin. Except if you're Greek. Then they're like, oh, Greeks are Greeks.
There's no such thing as racism in ancient times, Derek. Racism is a new thing we just invented.
Right. Forgot. Hasn't been around for existence.
And only certain people can be racist against other people. Aren't you aware of this, Derek?
Yeah, I'm well aware of it.
Yeah, stupid fucking... And I can say that because I can't be racist towards you.
Because we are the same ethnicity.
People are stupid. The world is stupid, but everything is hilarious.
Can't wait till we all become one giant mixing pot and everybody is just something with something else.
Nah, I'm looking forward to the hive mind era. We're all just implemented into the computer hive mind and we're all robots.
Honestly, that too. I can't wait for that.
Like, it's gonna be a lot easier that way.
Come on! Oh.
And now they're dead.
And now they're dead.
And now they're dead. Oh, by the way, I called the Sword Art Online thing. I was like, now they're trapped in the computer for the next, like, 200 fucking years or 300 years.
Yep.
I bet they're gonna do...
years.
I'm like, I bet they're gonna do fucking nothing with that, and then literally the next episode is them being taken out of the machine, and they're just like... I'm like, of course.
Well, you see, Chris, what's about to happen is... They're not trapped in there. They're not actually trapped in there. A version of Kiryu is trapped in there. And it's not actually Kiryu, because Kiryu is in both places, but he's in neither place at the same time.
That's not all what happened. It's one Kiryu, but although the dude did copy his memories and make him a second Kiryu, but that's not the same Kiryu. That was trapped in the machine for 300 years. That's a different Kiryu.
Don't you love it?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Don't you fucking love it? It's so great.
Kiryu, dude, the show is good. Alright?
You know, I'm not saying it's bad.
Season 5 is good. It's just fucking loony, but it's good. It's good entertainment.
It's better than the previous ones.
It's better than the last 2 fucking seasons we had. I'd say the last 3, but season 3 was actually kind of good too. Season 2 was not. Season 2 was just bad. But season 3 was pretty good. Season 3 gave everyone their favorite fuck toy on the internet, so everyone's down with that one. Also, that one had guns. Everyone's into guns. Except for people who aren't into guns, but those people are just unaware that they're into guns.
So I keep a BB gun in my desk, so if I check every time and be like, oh, nope, I'm still afraid of guns.
Yeah, that was a good one. I like that one. Kirito also becomes a Jedi in that one. That one's pretty good. I like that one a lot.
I'm not the only one who thought that was pretty stupid, right?
No, it's great.
Okay.
Like, why wouldn't they have laser swords in a game where everyone has modern-day guns?
That is true.
Makes perfect sense.
But I love it because it's just like, she's like, nobody uses it, it's garbage. And then he's just like, I have a laser sword.
I mean, I'd use it.
I'm like, I get it. But why?
I would 100% use it. I'd be like, I'm gonna main this shit.
I love it because she's straight up is like, nobody uses it because no one can fucking deflect bullets because everybody's shit. And then he just comes in and he's just like, I'm a Jedi! Just like, what?
I like that her reasoning was like, no one uses it because it's fucking terrible. It's a close range weapon in a game where everyone has a gun. And Kirito's just like,
I have a laser sword.
Kirito's just like, but I like the flashy stick. And that's how that entire season happens.
Yep.
I'm gonna play another game.
Yeah.
That game wasn't real, so it's fine.
It's all in their heads.
But yeah, like, I was like, alright, we're gonna see 300 years of them stuck into that world, growing old, and then, yeah, no, they didn't do shit with it, which is exactly what I thought they'd do with it.
They pulled him out of the Matrix, Chris.
Oh yeah, I was like, they should have gave us some time where they're, like, trapped in there, so we could have, had some time where they learn shit, but no. No. So this goes into my pile of things that Sword Art Online could be doing to make their show vastly more interesting, but it doesn't because they're stupid. It's like, wow, we could have learned about the ramifications of what happens if someone literally lives for 200 fucking years and then has to come back out and live life again. No. No, let's not do that. That sounds boring.
There was a... Have you ever heard of Torchwood?
Yes.
It's a Doctor Who spinoff. And the premise is the main character...
Oh, so it's bad. Sorry. I had to
No, I get it. But the main character is immortal.
Cool.
And I'm like, okay. And he just keeps dying in most episodes. But there's one that I'm like, they could do an entire fucking show about this specific premise. Yep. Where the guy goes and he's like, oh hey, it's Uncle Blah! And then the kid is outside and he's playing, and the main character's talking to the woman, and she's like, Dad. And I'm like, oh, I see what it is. His daughter is older than him because he's fucking immortal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you could do an entire fucking show about this premise of outliving all your fucking relatives?
Yeah, I was gonna write a book about that at one point.
And I'm like, that would be fucking awesome.
I still might at some point, I just haven't
gotten around to it.
I haven't pieced it all together. I don't know exactly how I want it to go yet, but...
Yeah. But it's like, that's an interesting premise.
I have thought about doing that. I want to write a book that's about, like, a bunch of immortals.
Yeah, you mentioned this one to me before.
And essentially it would be like... But it essentially would have a lot of that concept of, like... All of them would outlive their families, so they're all just, like... we are our family at this point.
We are family.
Yeah. But they were all gonna be from, like, different
Eras.
That was, like, my whole thing. Like, I wanted, like, people from, like... I wanted, like, young ones that were, like, from the 90s, and then older ones that were from, like, the 1940s roaring America, and then, like... Or 1920s roaring
Medieval
America.
ages.
And then, like, yeah, medieval ages. I never wanted to go as far back as medieval, but I did want to go back to, Renaissance.
Yes.
Renaissance era. And then... I had a good... I don't want to get too far into it, because some of the ideas I still like, and I don't want to, like...
You don't want to put them out there.
Yeah, I don't want to put it out there yet, but it's,
No,
some neat ideas. Like, I've been figuring out, like, well, how do they have money? How do they have society? How do they slip around all the, like, people realizing that they're immortal? Because you, like, if you figure people would eventually... Well, you figure people would eventually build up... They'd be like, hey, your fucking ID card says you were born in 1762.
But you look like you're 30, so...
So,
what's going on here?
We're gonna have to call the police on you.
You're either immortal, or... you're lying about your age.
But yeah, they were gonna have, like, then they were gonna have, like, there's, like, one main bad guy for, like, the immortal people who's, like, also immortal, and that's, like, the main person they have to, like, deal with. But I haven't really set up a good, like, why they would be in conflict yet. That's what I'm working on.
Highlander bullshit. He kills them and gains more power.
It's...
Like that?
Honestly, it's... a few of my ideas have been similar to that, but not quite the same.
I told you about the skit that a YouTuber had done that was like, hey, this person looks exactly like you. Yeah, it does. But that's not me, because that would mean I'm immortal. And I'm not immortal.
Yes, you've told me this skit like 4 times,
Okay.
I think all in this show.
I think so. That's a stupid quote, but I love it.
But yeah.
But you know, 300 years in the machine.
Yes.
But why wouldn't they do anything with it? Because they know how to write awesome things.
They had flashbacks to it, but that was just useless garbage fanfare. And added nothing to anything, so not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, they like... It's funny because it's funny though because like they get him out of the machine and sickly ass Kiryu is just like, delete the last 200 years. And I'm like, you see, now that feels like a real reaction.
What did he do? What did he do?
Delete all of it. Get this shit out of my brain. And then they delete all of it. But he deletes all of it, but then he still remembers his gay lover, even though he had them deleted, and then he got sad about it and cried. That's how that season arc ended.
That's great.
But yeah, I was really thrilled.
I can hear the emphasis in your voice, Chris.
It's just funny because my sister hasn't been watching it, but she just happened to be downstairs while it was playing, and she's just like, "The fuck is going on?" And I'm just like, "Well, you see, his gay lover died," and like, just like, really? And I'm like, "Well, not really, but it feels like it a lot of the time."
But his gay lover was never real to begin with.
Well, he was a real Derek.
To him.
He was a real... No, they're all real Derek. They were all real artificial intelligent AI based off of real people's intelligence AI after multiple generations of reproduction. You know nothing about artificial intelligence. Let me tell you, this is a super convoluted way to do artificial
I know,
intelligence.
like, that sounds way more complicated than artificial intelligence really is.
It was funny. Well, they wanted to make an artificial intelligence that essentially was a real person, but to do that, they need to break through their limits, so they would, like, test them constantly through, like, trials and like... And that's why, like, reproduction was, like, a thing, because then they could give birth to, hopefully, better genetic artificial code that would...
Yeah, no,
more likely to break
I know
through
enough
their
about
limits.
artificial intelligence to know.
My whole thing with it was someone when they first explained it in the show, they were like, "This is a military program to build artificial intelligence to replace human soldiers, and like we're trying to make as realistic as humanly AI as possible." I'm like, that's incredibly inefficient for soldiers. Why would you want a soldier that can feel remorse when you're trying to replace soldiers that can feel remorse?
Dude, I love when they do shit like that. It's just like, but why?
Like, wouldn't it be way more efficient to make an artificial intelligence that just wants to murder everything with no fucking thought beyond
That's
that?
why you make
Like,
things that have codes, but...
Because, like, really all you're doing is, if you're making artificial intelligence soldier, all you're really doing is slowing it down when you could just make it be like, immediate calculation, if I fire this bullet at this velocity, at this angle, I will hit 4 of my targets with 1 bullet.
That's the thing with... That's, if you look at, like, any cyberpunk thing, that's the thing with synthetic life. That's why it's like that. They don't feel like we do.
They feel like they do.
They feel like they do. They don't.
Yeah, so it just, like, when they first explained that in the show, I'm like, isn't that incredibly inefficient for making a military AI? Like, wouldn't you just want it to kill everything without remorse? They were like, I guess they did it because they were like, they wanted them to have decision-making, and it's like, you could give it decision-making without giving it remorse. With that, though, we're gonna have to call it here. We'll pick it up in the next part. Peace till then.